Who do you want to start with?
Oh, let's just whoever is ambitious and just wants to jump on in.
I'll kick off. My name is Meredith Hamilton. I am Jeff and Karen Hamilton's dad. I am in my 80th year, and this was not on my bucket list, but the encouragement of with Jeff and Karen, it now is. So that's me.
Awesome. Well, we're going to make it a good year, so.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Donna, 1729 on the screen. Started looking for some sort of trip I could take with some of my grandchildren, so recommended choice, and so I looked you up, and there was the opening, so we decided to in and go. My granddaughters are on the screen. I've got Kesley Osborne and Brianna iPhone, Brianna Alder. So
Awesome.
they can tell you about themselves when it's their turn, I guess.
Good.
Okay, I will go. So I'm Brianna, and that was my grandma Donna just talking, and my cousin Kesley, she's on the stream also. We've been looking forward to doing a trip like this for a while now, and so we actually finally got in, so we're excited.
Well, awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm Kesley, and that's my grandma and cousin, and I guess just what Brianna said sums it up.
Yeah.
And where are you at right now?
I'm in Cedar City.
Cedar City. Okay.
Brianna, where are you?
Oh, I'm at Snow College, Ephraim, Utah, middle of nowhere.
And I'm in North Logan, Utah. So.
Awesome. Cool. Got a good spread here.
Okay.
I guess
I'll go.
Was that Mom?
I'll go next.
Karen?
Hello. Is that Megan?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, we're Jeff and Karen Hamilton. We are Meredith's son and daughter-in-law, who you've heard from already. We are so excited. We have 9 family members who are going to be on this expedition.
Yahoo!
Yeah, that's Grandpa. So we range in age from, how old are you, Dad? 80, 81?
80. He'll be 81 this next time around.
He's in his 80th.
But I'm an old 80.
Down to, let's see, we've got Ethan, who is 17. He's the youngest in our group.
He'll be 18 when we're on the expedition, though.
Awesome.
Oh, that's right. He'll be 18 by the time we go.
Yeah.
So that's it. We're just looking forward to meeting you all. Jeff and I are driving now. We might get to the office before the meeting is over. We're trying.
Well,
so,
can you all, oops, I'm not sure if you can all see me here. I seem to have lost my video feed, but it's a lonely office. It's me and a bunch of empty chairs. I'll introduce you to all the other participants who've made it here.
Oh, wow.
We've got a handful who are stuck in traffic or played it safe to stay at home, and that is totally fine. So do we have anyone else on the line who called in that we haven't had a chance to meet yet?
I guess I'll go. I tried to, but got interrupted by my mama. But I am the daughter. My name's Megan, and my husband's name is Joshua. I'm the daughter of Karen and Jeff Hamilton. And they had an experience with Choice last year that they really loved, and so they thought that it'd be a great opportunity to take all their kids along, and so we have the awesome opportunity to join them on this, and we're just really excited.
That's great. Anyone else with us right now? If not, I'll do a quick, and I just want to confirm, because I lost a few things on my screen up here. Just want to confirm, can you all see the Expeditions PowerPoint that's up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll do a quick intro to myself, and it's kind of fun introducing myself to this group because I officially joined Choice about a year ago. And my very first expedition that I was working with when I joined was the expedition that Jeff and Karen went out on. And so it's been very fun to see them go out and have such a great experience and see a number of ways and put this together. So that said, I've been an expedition leader with Choice for over 10 years now. While I've been in this capacity here on the expedition program for about a year, my background is in international development, and I've worked in development in a variety of capacities, mostly out east in Washington, D.C. So I absolutely love Choice so much, and I absolutely love Guatemala. You guys are, I had the good fortune to go on the Christmas trip last year, and I couldn't picture a better way to spend the holidays. So that's me. I'm going to introduce your two expedition leaders. Gabriella may be joining us in a few minutes. She's stuck in traffic, and it worked out better for her to actually just head back home and try and call in. So Gabriella has been leading expeditions with Choice for years with a primary focus in Guatemala. So obviously, she's got a lot of experience there. She has one of the strongest working relationships with our in-country team, which makes her and the experience extremely efficient and effective. And she is a very detail-oriented leader who is very effective at working with the communities and engaging folks. She's Mexican national, so she obviously speaks Spanish very fluently, big heart, and one of our most beloved probably volunteers as well here at Choice. And then you'll see Peter Coates over here. I think that's his most recent Halloween photo. That's Peter dressed over as a stormtrooper. Peter, I wouldn't be surprised if he brought that costume to Guatemala. He's one of our funnest expedition leaders out there. Yeah, he's been leading expeditions with Choice also for 5 to 7 years. A lot of experience in Guatemala, also speaks Spanish fluently. Peter will not be with us right now because he is actually in Greece supporting as a leader some refugee work for a Syrian refugee camp outside of Athens. So Peter is very well traveled, very involved in a number of humanitarian activities. Here, grab a seat. We got everyone calling in. I got some company here at the office, which is so exciting. For me, probably very uncomfortable for him. We're going to roll it around. Who have we got here? Brendan. Okay. Where are you coming from?
Just here in Westford.
All right. So we got Brendan made it with us.
My dad should be.
Well, awesome. So we're just doing introductions. We've got most folks are video calling in. So that is Peter. That is Gabriella, and you guys are just in phenomenal hands. And both of them were chosen particularly for this trip just based off of their experience in Guatemala. So super excited there. I do want to introduce just briefly some other folks those who've traveled on expeditions before, the Hamiltons, might recall from their experience in Nepal. But the expedition leaders and myself are only a very small fraction of the team and talent that is supporting your experience. And what I've put up here is just a photo of the in-country team led by Jorge and Marta Chen. They have been leading Choice operations in Guatemala for now going on 7 years. In those 7 years, they've executed some amazing projects and programs, including over 60 expeditions that range from medical, dental, to trips like this that are oriented around community infrastructure and projects. So I put that up there so you guys start to already now kind of understand that the minute you arrive in country, you're not only supported by the leaders, but this whole team who they're really the boots on the ground who do the work long before you arrive, support our time in the community, and support that work long after we leave. And so take advantage of every one of them once you get in country. They're just an amazing resource and an amazing team. And I also put them up there because it's important to introduce them as part of the program that you're going into. Choice Humanitarian, I'm actually going to, well, we'll continue on this. Choice Humanitarian is first and foremost an international development organization. And expeditions are a really small part of what we do. So it's been around for over 30 years, and Choice focuses on a model of development that relies on local in-country leaders like Martha and like Jorge, and we rely on them to build strong relationships with the communities. Hey, come on in. We got, oh, I don't know. Sorry, the seats are taken. So let's see. Are you Brendan's dad?
Yeah.
What? Nate. Awesome. We've got probably about 15 other people video calling or conferencing in. So we've got the check-its here. I'm going to finish this wrap up on the model, and then I'd love to just quick time for them to kind of introduce themselves and how they got involved. But so like I was mentioning, in all of our, we have an in-country team like Jorge and Martha. And what those teams are doing year-round is they're building relationships with communities at a community or district level, and then they are helping those communities go through a process. And that process is kind of our core model of development, which means communities help identify interest in developing. They'll work with our country team to identify their priorities, their strengths, strengthen their leadership capacity. And then those communities will identify which programs and projects are most important to them. And with the support of our Choice in Country team, they will then design and execute and carry out those projects. So every community that works with Choice is putting in a lot of its own time and resources in anything that it does. And that includes sweat equity, that includes time, but in some instances, resources and material. And that's really core to our approach to development. So going back to this, Choice is working in probably 10 to 25 communities at any given point in every country. Of those 20, let's say, communities, maybe 2 or 3 will receive the support of an expedition. So expeditions, the way I put it, is not how Choice does development, but it's a rare opportunity to plug into our approach to development and go through that whole experience we're going to walk through. And I just want to hop on. If you're calling in right now, if you want to mute your phones, and then I'll open it up for sometimes for questions in a little bit. We're getting some feedback over here, and I can maybe, let me hop on in, and I'm going to take some discretion here and mute everybody. Let's try that. Excellent. Okay. Problem solved. So with kind of that in, with that context in place, that's what you're plugging into. And so expeditions for over 30 years have been a really integral part of what it is that we do. And by going on an expedition, you're funding a few things. And I always just like to touch on this briefly. You're funding and accelerating the actual project that you'll be a part of. You're funding and accelerating ongoing projects related to that community. So there's a lot of work that happens on every project way long before we arrive and way long after we leave, which is what gives the community the chance to really own that and to have it be sustainable long after we're there. But then the expedition program for Choice not only funds those specific projects, but as I mentioned, 2 out of 20 communities at any given time will receive an expedition. Expeditions fund a much broader program budget that extends beyond even Guatemala into countries that maybe don't have a lot of expeditions, like Kenya or Bolivia and things like that. So it's a real core part of how Choice sustains itself as an organization. And so we like to look at that as a unique social business that's probably designed long before that was even a concept that people talked about. So before I get into some itinerary stuff, I do want to flip it here. We can't see it, but they can see you. And if you guys just want to introduce yourselves, how you got involved on the trip for everyone else, that'd be great.
Sure. My name's Nate Checkitz. About 20 years ago, I did an evaluation for Choice in Mexico.
Oh, interesting.
With my college professor was working with some people here at Choice, and so I had a chance to do that and go to the villages there in Mexico, and I've always wanted to do a full expedition, and finally made that work, and having my son come with me too.
Cool. Do you recall where you went in Mexico?
I can't remember the names of the towns. I forget.
20 years, yeah.
It's been a little while.
Interesting. I bet you may recall Juan.
Oh yeah.
Juan's still there.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he's still at it, and they're doing amazing stuff down in Mexico.
What are some of the towns that they work in?
So they work in a couple larger regions of Acambay, Aculco, Meseta de Chosto. I mean, it might depend. 20 years. Guanajuato area is for sure the area. Well, that's great in a super small world. So expeditions, you'll see this little section here around celebration and evaluation, and that's where really expeditions fit in. This is a chance for communities to not only receive support and funds, but also for both sides, us communities, to have, a very rare off the beaten path chance to work together, learn from one another. We have a very strong philosophy that this is about an equal exchange between those who go down and communities who are there. There's a lot to learn from one another. You'll spend a lot of time in the expedition exploring that. But that's what Choice stands for, is Center for Humanitarian Outreach and Intercultural Exchange. And so the projects and the real development work that we do would be that humanitarian outreach. And expeditions are the side that is really the intercultural exchange. And so with that, I'm going to put one caveat out here that this is not, a vacation tour package or cruise option, A, B, or C. This is a very non-traditional way to get out. And that means a few things, and it doesn't mean a few things. So it means that inherently it's important to now start understanding your own expectations, your own areas of sensitivity around food and travel and private space or lack thereof, and language barriers and weather and things like that. But at the same time, to know that you're working with a lot of factors that we can control. And kind of off to the left here, today we're going to talk just about some of these things that we do know, like the itinerary and the team who you've already met, and the project goals and the village dynamic, and you've got a lot of resources to help you prepare. But starting now, it's very important to start acknowledging that we can't control all of the dynamics around the experience. And so our role as leaders and your role as participants is to go to a place where everyone kind of works together to navigate the change and to take advantage of opportunities. When I say changes or unknowns, that sometimes make us think those are always bad things, like it's going to start raining or a car's breaking down. Some of them for sure are just not fun, but also things that we don't anticipate include the time or the conversations that we might spend with people in the community. The pace of the project might evolve to go see someone's home and learn about how they make X, Y, or Z. And so those are also opportunities that we can't anticipate, but our role is really to help facilitate that, create it. And at the end, I'll talk about how people do that successfully. But right now, I put this out there. This is a theme you will revisit very often, that there's stuff we can control, things that we can't. And our job as a group is to navigate those. And our job as leaders is to make sure that everything we do know, that you know. And when there are changes required, that we know the options and we can kind of work through those as a group. So with that, I do want to take just a minute, unmute everybody, and see if anyone has any questions up to this point. I'm gonna dive into the itinerary, the village, and the project here in a minute. But anything about the choice model, the team, your leaders?
Jordan, I joined a little while ago. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, we've got Gabriella on the line. Gabrielle, do you I introduced you a bit ago, but do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself? Maybe how you got involved with Choice and a little bit just about your background leading?
Oh, sure. Hi, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to our orientation. I got involved with Choice about 6 years ago. My job is as an interpreter, and they needed an interpreter who can volunteer for the in-country directors, and I volunteered to follow the in-country directors for about 2 weeks. They went to all, participated in many different types of events, and I was their interpreter for those 2 weeks. So I got to know in a crash course everything that there was to know about Choice, and just fell in love with the organization and began to volunteer as much as I could in the different events and that Choice had. And then 3 years into that, I took the training to be a Choice expedition leader, and I've been on 4 or 5 expeditions to Guatemala. Guatemala is one of my favorite places to be, so I know it very well. And I'm really excited to have you all in this trip, and I'm excited that I know everything I know about Guatemala. So everyone should be really safe and excited that we're going to make the best out of this expedition as a learning experience, as a cultural experience, and changing other people's lives by building stones.
Love it. Well, great. And it sounds like the sound's pretty good now, so you can, we'll not mute you. You're not banished anymore. So Gabriella, are you just calling in, or are you at a computer and able to see some of the content that's up there?
I can see the computer and all the information that I see your presentation as you're scrolling. So
okay,
yeah.
Excellent. So we'll have you jump in here, and I will do a quick overview of the community. And then Gabriella, I will have you walk us through the itinerary from a high level, and then kind of talk about some of those steps that you'll see down here. But before we do that, I just want to quickly introduce the community so that you can kind of cruise through some of that. So this is and I'll pull this map up here. So Mercedes Secanquin is a community that Choice has been working in this area, this district right here, Cajabon. And Choice operates kind of in this whole area right up kind of where I'm circling here. And so Choice has been working in this area for now a little over 2 years. It's a community that's a little bit smaller, as you can see, and you'll see from other photos. Guatemala is a geography that is high and low, big hills, big ascents, hard to reach areas, but beautiful, beautiful green lush areas. In this area, there's over 250 people that live in the community. So that makes for about 40 to 50 families that comprise that. And they've worked on 2 other sequences of projects with Choice in the past, a water system and a school inauguration. And I actually want to, if I can here, pull this up. Boy, can I get rid of it? Hold on a moment. Can you all still see where I'm trying to get to?
Yes.
Here, we don't always have footage of schools before. So this is actually the actual school in the community, a little snapshot on the Choice Guatemala page of its inauguration. And so this school was completed in 2013. So pretty cool project, pretty big project that was carried out. And so one thing that's neat to note about a community that's gone through projects like this is it means they've done quite a lot of work on their own, quite a lot of work directly with Choice. An expedition has been there once before, but it's been quite a long time. So that's the community. The project that we'll be working on is around an efficient indoor stove technology. And Gabrielle, I might invite you to just kind of talk about the project and stove technology, since just in June, you were down in Guatemala working on a very similar project, different community. But do you kind of want to add some context for why Choice and communities work on stoves and kind of what that stove project does in terms of impact and cooking and health?
Of course. Thank you, Jordan. So the highlight being that when we build stoves, we avoid all kind of respiratory issues that the women and everyone that lives in the house has, because they get emphysema or they get just different kind of respiratory asthma and diseases that shortens the life expectancy of the people who live in their houses, in their homes. So Choice builds these stoves to enhance the living conditions of the people in the village, and therefore, you know, dignifying their way of living. Basically, that's what Choice does, a dignified place to cook. And when I tell you that, you would be amazed. I sent some pictures with Jordan and about what is the before and the after. It's amazing when you walk in as to what they have to cook in, which is just 2 stones and a few logs, and that's how they cook.
Yeah, that's great. And one thing I would add to this, you'll see kind of on this side to this left here, I mean, you can imagine, and you'll see the primary people that this is impacting, cooking in a home over an open fire, is typically women and children. And you'll see that cooking is not something you do briefly 3 times a day, but rather something that started at 5 a.m. and continues on through the day, just by the nature of how you cook and keeping things hot. And so there's folks, mothers and children who are raised in a very smoky space, which Gabriella kind of articulated a lot of those distinctions. One of the other huge benefits of eliminating exposure to open fire cooking is also extremely, it's a huge increase in efficiency. So Guatemala, you'll see, might seem like a very plentiful, bounteous land where wood you would not think is actually a challenge. But deforestation and efficient wood use is a big challenge for communities. It's a big collaboration challenge for communities. And it's one of the largest sources of expenses for families, where most of their income is going towards firewood. So by creating a much more efficient cooking system, you're also helping them save a lot more time and money that has other amazing benefits to the family. So that's the project.
So I also wanted to add, Jordan, if I may, really quickly, the other great benefit is that it minimizes tremendously the effects of their houses burning down, because there are always an open flame, and that's one of the other huge benefits from that.
Yeah. So and Choice in Guatemala does a range of projects. So as we mentioned, this community's already worked on kind of community-wide water systems. It's already worked on the inauguration or the completion of a primary school. And so another type of project too, we'll get a little bit more at a targeted family-based level. You'll learn about this when you get to the community, but families are going to put in a few things. So this is a lofty, I should say, this project that this expedition will be supporting is 44 stoves. We will not get that far. It is an ambitious, we will probably get to 12 to 15, I would say. But because of the way Choice works, it's not about what we get done there, but rather the program we're supporting that exists before we're there and will carry on long after we leave. But that's kind of the overall picture here, which is really cool. And it's Gabriella and I were laughing when we were talking to Martha about the project kind of goals and parameters. We said that 44 is a lot. So, Gabrielle, do you want to just walk people through? People have this itinerary, so we don't need to read it or go into too much detail, but just kind of high level what to expect over these days, and we can kind of use the map to highlight for context where people will be going. But I'll let you maybe jump in on the itinerary if you'd like.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan. Yes, on the first day, some of you will get there on the 25th, but our expedition begins on Monday, and we will take a bus ride about 7 hours into Rio Dulce, which will have dinner and our sleeping arrangements. And the next day we head out, and the next day we'll head out to a scenic drive, and we'll get on a boat that looks like that, and then we'll visit a fort, which is really a neat experience. And also we will see we'll go on the water, and that usually lasts about an hour. Like, to get there, it's about half an hour, but the time that we'll spend at the fort will be about an hour and a half, depending on how many. Probably this smaller group probably be an hour and a half, because there's a lot of pictures that people like to take. And then we'll head back, and then we'll can you scroll down to the Jordan? It's a beautiful resort. You will enjoy it quite a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I wasn't able to get all those photos you had in. So this is where you'll stay that first Saturday evening. We'll get in late. It gets darker a little bit. I mean, pretty standard around between 6 and 7. So depending on the time of arrivals and things like that. But a good chunk are already, I think most folks will be in by about 11:30, either to the airport or to the hotel. And we checked with our team. So we will have you guys head directly to the airport and stay there. And we'll sync it up with Peter, who will already be in country, to meet up with you guys there. We'll pick up the rest around 11:30 and head out straight from there. And we'll have lunch on the bus. The reason why it can be between 4 and 7 hours is, one, this is just after a holiday, and two, some of the main roads are just traffic heavy. So almost getting out of the city is, the hardest part. But the first stretch, that first day, is on a really nice bus, much more comfortable. It's got a bathroom on it. And so good time for those
Don't get too used to that. Don't get too used to that.
Little tease. We should save that towards the end and just start off with the chicken buses. Might be.
That's right. Hey, that sounds like a good idea. And yes, I will be arriving on the morning of the 26th with another group. So I think that will cut down on confusion, and I'll stay there till the whole group huddles, and then we can take off from there. So I don't see any problems whatsoever.
And then the only other thing I'll add here is, folks will be have flown overnight. And so that day, I mean, try and get some sleep on the bus. There's no really getting around it if you've just come in overnight to hop on. It's not a very bumpy ride. It's kind of on a highway. It's just traffic is what slows it down, not switchback, kind of rainy roads. So that's good. We'll do that orientation where it'll kind of be the collective group's first time to spend time together, meet the in-country team, go over the next few days, expectations. And that'll happen here in Rio Dulce. So that first night is just going to be getting in, having dinner, and getting to know one another. And with that, I'll let you pick it up kind of after the tour. We've already talked about, I'll let you, Gabby, kind of walk them through just arriving into the community and that first Sunday.
Okay. So the chicken ride is, now that is not, it is a bumpy ride, and we'll have plenty of water, and and they'll have your luggage in another, you won't have the luggage with you, it goes in another bus. So it's important that you always, like on the plane, you have all of your stuff. We've never had them not having their luggage when we get there. But I wouldn't want it to be the first time you didn't have your essential medication, which is probably the only thing that I would ask you to bring. So we take that ride, and we'll have, like I said, plenty of water. We'll have a lot of time to interact with each other. And I think that's one of the times where I get to know most of the people, because to pass the time, we just talk the whole time. So I'm looking forward to that, which is where I meet everyone in detail, know everything about you guys before we get there. So we get there.
And just to add one thing, that ride, that'll be taking place Sunday, or sorry, this is now Tuesday.
Saturday.
Yeah, we're starting on Monday.
I'm in the Wednesday.
So this is now kind of Tuesday. This will be after the boat tour. We'll have lunch back at Rio Dulce. Hop on the bus. So from like 1 p.m. till about 5, we'll be navigating up to the community. And then, Gabrielle, do you just kind of want to talk about what that first night looks like? Because that's kind of usually a different type of night than the rest of the nights.
You mean the first night at Rio Dulce?
No, at the community.
At the community. Okay, so the very first thing that we'll have is we'll have a welcome ceremony, and that takes, as soon as we get there, and that lasts about an hour, and then we'll go and set up everything that just to be able to, sleep that night, and then we go and have dinner, and again we talk about the trip. We help out, and all of the in-country team we will meet them during the ceremony. Jorge and Marta always give you a welcome, and they also give an opportunity. It's a very good opportunity for a cultural exchange. We have whoever wants to say something, because all the community is gathered, and so you'll be able to express why you're there and what you hope to learn, and I would interpret everything that you're saying. And I found that is like such a good beginning of getting, sometimes in prior expeditions, we get to know them, the in-country directors, but Jorge on prior occasions said, they always ask why you're here and what your feelings are. They know you're here to build stoves, but they want to know a little bit more about you. And then that just personalizes the expedition quite a little bit.
Yeah. And one thing just to know, this will make more sense when you're there. That first night, this will be a little bit later, like 5 or 6. And there's no way for us to say it's going to be 45 minutes and then dinner's at 6, because there's a vibrant community who really plans their own welcome. And that is going to totally depend on their leadership, their customs, the things they're excited to share. That can include dancing till very late, well beyond your traditional appetite for dancing. That can include also really, I don't, just for lack of, I wouldn't say boring, but maybe very formal presentations from every single conceivable adult in the community, which is a beautiful opportunity for them to even kind of acknowledge amongst their own community leadership responsibility. And so it's great. So it's a real mix. So it's a bit of just kind of winging it. And so you're going to follow the lead with your leaders about how to be mindful, respectful. A couple things that we try to do is cameras and photos and things like that are phenomenal to have throughout the expedition. The welcome reception is the one time I strongly recommend people as a group to say, hey, let's find one member of the in-country team who will take over the responsibility of taking photos for everybody. And as you get off the bus, feel very comfortable to just tuck your phone in and be super present, because there's a lot of activity going around, and it's really nice to just trust that someone's capturing photos, and they might, who knows the quality, but we're meeting folks, we're shaking hands, we're being very present. and very connected to whatever that experience might be. And then, yeah, it'll be a late night of settling into camp, going over rules, all of that stuff. So it's for sure one of the funnest times. And then I'll actually just walk people through real quick the Wednesday to Saturday wrap up, and then Gabrielle, I'll have you walk through the different components of the expedition, which I'll pull up in a minute.
Okay.
But Wednesday to Saturday is going to be pretty much the same routine, which is you'll be getting up in the morning by about 8:30. You've had breakfast, synced up as a team, and by about 9, you're sorting out who's going to go where. There's generally going to be some project leads and organizing that, and that's really Gabrielle's strength together with the in-country team. You'll work till about noon, have lunch, be back at it at about 1 or 2, and usually in the afternoon, one of two things happens. You re-engage on the project, or a handful of the group might get pulled into some other activities that have presented themselves, and that could be games, activities, it could be visiting the school. So some organic kind of development really happens, and as it should, but you'll usually wrap up around 5, do an earlier dinner, and then have the evening to do a few things, either spend time together just playing games, or having more focused conversations with the community leaders and yourselves collectively as a group. So learning's a big part of that. And then the last day, for sure, will be kind of a good farewell celebration, you know, which will seem like it just came way too fast, but somehow it'll also feel like you've been there forever. And it's a real moment of feeling accomplishment, and, you know, folks are getting excited to get back to maybe a shower, things like that. So it's kind of a fun time. And then that'll be a long haul drive starting really early back to the city, Guatemala. And we'll wrap up with very casual kind of dinner right there at the hotel, share reflections, bid farewell. And then Monday, depending on when folks are leaving, there's really time to explore Guatemala City and areas nearby that. So with that, Gabriella, if you're following this, do you just kind of want to talk about the type of work that's involved, just expectation-wise?
Okay. Well, thank you, Jordan. So the first day we distribute all of the materials, and the community, they arrange it so that we distribute it, and we make, if you would, like piles of all the material they need for each stove. And then Choice also participates in that, and also we will help carry that material to the individual houses, which there'll be a lot of hills, and so it's a lot of strenuous work to carry, but we won't expect you to carry or anything beyond what your strength is, and you can always tell us, I would prefer not to carry that. But if you see that picture, that's pretty much exactly what it looks like. We'll be carrying things for the majority of the morning. We will probably won't be making dishes until the later part after lunch. And that's what we'll do next. Once we have finished that, distributing all of the material, and like I said, all the community helps out, we will start we'll be assigning groups, different groups, so that the houses are not one next to another. It may be that one house is 30 minutes away from another house, and sometimes they're down the hill. So I'm saying that because if, excuse me?
I said, or up the hill.
Or, yeah, basically up the hill. So you'll be coming down sometimes. So, but if you go down the hill, well, you're gonna have to go up, right? So that it's very hard work. It doesn't seem like that. I do want to say that when you're there, it seems like it's an impossible task, but I don't know, you get all this energy for some reason when you know that that's what's expected of you. And so hopefully that's the case for all of us while we're there. But like I said, if you feel at any time that this is interfering with your health, immediately we will find something else for you to do. We could either have you in the kitchen, so you will not miss out if you are not actually on building the stoves, because for those reasons, we have found that the people who would rather not do that, we find other things to do that are just equally or even more fulfilling for those people that decided to stay.
Yep.
Okay, anyway, so we start building the ditches, and the next day we'll start pouring cement. And it is very important that everything is, believe it or not, is measured, because it has to be a certain depth so that the cinder blocks go in there and they won't move. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And so we found that we always have to have a mason there with us. And so they'll take turns as well around in every group, so that we make sure that we're measuring. Okay, we don't expect you to know that. We know that, and we have foreseen all those things that we need to figure out. We also will be swifting, like the other picture, Jordan, if you want to move to the other picture, we will be swifting cement for all the gravel. And so that's between, some people will be in charge of digging ditches, because we have a limited amount of tools for every project. So what I do is that I rotate people. Okay, so you've been digging for an hour, so why don't you go swift sand, or why don't you bring the cinder block? So it's very interactive. I don't always have you just build ditches or just do the same exact thing. You'll have the experience of doing the work that is required, the different tasks that are involved.
Yeah, and that's great. And one thing I'll just add to this, which will segue into the next section, which is where we're just going to kind of talk about the flow of a day and what to expect, is that working, there's a lot of ways to engage. Working is one of those ways. And sometimes the most meaningful experiences come from having a quiet conversation on someone's porch to the best of your ability, and playing, painting children's fingernails, or getting out a soccer ball and simply kicking it around. That means anyone of any age, any capacity can find ways to really engage. And it is a very, you saw my list up there of the known and unknown things. One of the things that's most difficult for us, I think, coming from the United States, understandably so, you've all invested a lot of time, you've invested money. We have like a go get it done attitude and mentality, because time is important. You made that sacrifice. And I just always have to emphasize that can be executed in a number of ways. And that is not always measured by the level of physical exhaustion you might have after a day. I would say, that's the easiest way to measure that, but there's a lot. So this will kind of talk about some of that.
And Jordan, I do want to mention something so that everyone's aware, now that you said the finger painting. I know that you've talked about earlier, probably in the introduction, about no promises and no gifting and no candy taking.
Do that at the end here.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about it at the end, and then remind me to tell you that when we have those interactions, that's part of where we don't want you to do any of that.
Yeah. We'll kind of give some examples here. Well, maybe I'll just give a quick overview on this section, and Gabrielle will take the next one. So a couple things just to expect, so that, we can typically guarantee, right? You're going to eat really well. I know every country is phenomenal at the food. Guatemala is my favorite. Just flat out going to say it. Martha's a phenomenal cook. Diverse menu, comfort items, but also some really traditional items. And so you'll eat well. You'll eat a great breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I recommend that you bring some comfort snacks, though, the things that you normally might want camping or something like that as your go-to little items. Little packaged chocolates and things like that go a long way at night when you're hanging out and playing cards and things like that. So you'll see off to the far right, that's the actual area where we'll be eating. So that is actually where you'll be eating. Sleeping will be in the new schoolhouse. It's 3 classrooms. So we will be breaking out the eating, the sleeping, and all that amongst those classrooms, and that'll kind of be dealt out. You can expect a space to look something like this, right? Tarps, big common space, kind of lined up on the side with your sleeping pad, your sleeping bag, and your bag kind of all lined up there. Now, I always bring, just for those who want to ask questions after, kind of my stock items. I brought them over here. I used to give a pretty open, recommendation, like, hey, if you want a sleeping mat that's just a little air blow up ones, like, go for that. That's what I use. You can also bring an air mattress, things like that. I have since changed quite a bit my recommendation. You're all free to bring whatever you want. However, I have been seeing on a number of expeditions that the blow up bigger air mattresses, if that's not a good quality one that you've bought, causes far more problems than comfort that it brings, in that they're constantly deflating. And we just barely had to say, where it was like a nightly ritual where we would like patch mattresses and like set up the workshop, and then in the morning everyone would wake up on a deflated air mattress again. And so my stronger recommendation is bring just a nice, they make great camping mats that are maybe 2 inches high. They sell them at REI or other places for no more than $50. They make nicer ones that even cost more. Those I've seen cause a lot less logistical problems. That said, if you're more than welcome to bring like a battery operated air mattress, but be warned that I see them deflate quite often. You won't need a very heavy sleeping bag, but bring whichever one you've got. And layers still are always good. I remember this time last year when I was in Guatemala, had some cooler nights, and so it's nice to have layers or liners as backup. But you'll need a sleeping bag, you'll need a pillow, camping pillow, and you'll need an air mattress. These are the bathroom facilities that you will actually be using, which are like heaven. This is like 7-star resort right here, because they can range from squatty potties to standing no squatty potties and everything in between. So this is phenomenal. There's also a sink as well. There will be electricity likely available during the day, but for sure through generator for charging and things like that around the kitchen setup at certain times. And you'll just want to make sure you've got the right charge converters. If you have a question, yes.
What are they?
So everything's still on 220 voltage. So if you have, but the plug-in is the same. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gabriella. The plug-in itself is the exact same, correct?
It's 2-pronged.
The 2 circles.
The 3. I'm sorry. The 3 prong. Sorry, my ignorance. It's the 3-prong. Yeah. But nothing that's different than that.
Yeah. And it's just a high voltage. So you'll need an adapter, or most phones and cameras honestly have one built into the charger itself. So, but a couple little logistical things there. And the bathrooms are close. They're in the same school quarters. So that's the situation there, which is awesome. And then we've kind of talked a little bit about this. Gabrielle, I don't know if you want to add anything, not maybe into the working side. I mean, I talked about the idea that just now starting to open up horizons for what a successful expedition looks like. And playing is a very large part of that. And that's getting, yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me. I don't know, have you talked to Arden that you can bring, that will tell you some of the things that you can bring that we found that to be most successful in order to
why don't you cover some of that now? This is a great spot to talk about.
Okay, so one of the things that facilitates, because of the language barrier, are things that you don't have to explain, that you could just basically take the little girl's hand and just show her, and then you start painting. Either you can even do your nail, and then that's all the language that you'll need to say. Just coloring books, those are really, really helpful, because we also take a little tape and then put them there around the school, and they find that super neat, and you can color along with them. And that's so if anybody wants to bring as many as one, or in one box of crayons, then feel free to do that. Or if you want to bring 10, it fits in your bagging and your baggage, that's fine. And also don't worry about it not being, if it's not all used, which sometimes is the case, we leave them with the schoolmaster, and they will use it for many, during the school year. So that's also one of the contributions that we leave when we're gone. Also, we can, as far as sports, we can bring balls that you don't have to inflate, that we can inflate them when we get there. Anything that is soccer or frisbees, or just a game that can fit in your luggage, that you might have played with your kids, or anything that you can think of that a group of kids can play. I wouldn't jumping ropes are really good. Sometimes when we find that you bring a game that requires a turn, it's kind of detrimental, because then you have this huge line, and then not everybody gets to play, and they won't leave until somebody gets to turn. So, but if you want to bring that, it may be helpful for those who decide to stay and have the cultural experience, can actually play with the kids if they want to.
Yeah,
so anything you can think of.
Yeah, and that's the principle there. And one thing I'll just pull out and add to that, the principle is anything that facilitates interaction. So, I mean, yes, these are things you throw in your backpack for the day, and you're at home, and the down moment, you just pull out like a Nerf football, and there goes the afternoon, Some principles around this: we do not individually gift give. So if you're playing with balls or soccer balls or things like that, like bubbles, face paint, finger, nail polish, things like that, those all facilitate that interaction. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that's physically left. Even crayons or coloring might work together, but those will go to the school, and we won't because it's always impossible. We'll talk in a minute about that, but those can all be left though at the end.
One more thing that I wanted to mention that we had this last year that I had not seen in any other expedition is somebody bought a flute and a guitar. I mean, they did one above and beyond bringing it on board, but that was really cool, because they would go and just watch our two music lovers.
Yeah, any musical talent, bring it, because it's so fun. So a couple other things just to take note of here. Learning is a big part of that. A lot of that learning is going to happen informally with your leaders by asking questions while you're on the job site or while you're learning in a home. We do structure sometimes to learn, though, particularly a time. It might happen in the morning. It might happen in the evening, but a time with the in-country team where they kind of introduce themselves, the scope of their work, open Q&A with the team to learn about, they're fulfilling a role on the expedition, but that is something they do on top of what they really do 9 to 5 or more than that, right? And so that'll happen. We'll get usually a time to have that similar type of fireside chat with community leaders, and also together as a group. And so anticipate that. And we work hard to try and make sure that everyone's kind of queuing in to how the group's doing and taking advantage of the moments when they're right, because it can be a challenge in this environment. And if we're sleepy and, a card game tournament makes the most sense, then that's that's the plan too. So everyone has a real ability to co-create the use of our time, but those are the goals. These are really the goals there.
One more thing, Jordan, that I wanted to mention is that if you have a big iPad, one of the good interactions that you have is like whenever you take a picture with someone or of them, they always want to see what they look like. And so if you have a bigger iPad, because they'll all huddle in and want to see the picture. So if you do have it and it's not a big deal for you to bring it, I would encourage you to bring it.
Yeah. And with technology, just because the topic came up there, everyone should feel comfortable to have cameras and things like that, iPads. I usually recommend, not bringing a lot out with you. So if you're going out, you might have one camera or something like that. It can be overwhelming when lots of little kids are super excited and it's great, but it can create a lot of activity and things like that. And so reducing some of that can help just have smoother interactions with kids. I also throw this out. This is not a choice policy. This is like a Jordan observation over the years that increasingly and with good reason and great benefit, cellular connection, particularly in Guatemala, is increasingly available, even in rural, remote communities. Great things for communities. So we see folks with kind of a version of a phone or smartphone, and so that shouldn't surprise us too much. One of the challenges I think it creates for expeditioners is being present. And so I really recommend that, man, your Christmas break, you got this, like, we live in this crazy busy world right now, school, work, friends. Even if you have Facebook or data or things like that, like, I am such a fan of shutting that off, taking photos, engaging in all that stuff, but turning off that communication side of things. And it really just helps you be a lot more present. And I also think it helps the group spend a lot more time with one another. And so it's something to consider. I find it very rare this day and age to be able to do that. This environment is so conducive to check out, and it, I think, is the best recharge ever. So that's my rant on that. So I mentioned there's things we know and things we don't know. This will all make more sense for those who've maybe been or those who are out there. 3 things that I find set people up for a positive experience. I see same people experience the same things and come out with different experiences, and that's life, right? And there's a couple things that I notice about those who continually thrive in what are unknown or uncomfortable environments, and it's these things. First, being flexible. Understand your expectations. Some of them are warranted, but start to accept that they might change. And let's roll with the punches. Let's communicate frustrations, etc., but acknowledge that's a real part of it. I find that these environments, we're all so vulnerable, so out of our comfort zone, that just having a sense of humor and making light of all the things that change and all the things that maybe went exactly as planned, right? And still turned out weird. Just letting that happen. And let's be appropriate about our sense of humor, but let's have one, and let's find that joy in the time. And then this third one is really important. Like I mentioned, this isn't a cruise. There's no cruise director. Everyone kind of wears a hat of responsibility, even kids, even at the youngest level. And so that means it's really critical that everyone's thinking about a few things. First, just how you're personally doing, physically and emotionally or socially, right? Am I uncomfortable or not? Do I feel sick or not? And get rid of the barrier to communicate that. You don't need to communicate it to everyone, but either to your leaders or to someone in your family or friends that you're with. But we can't help you navigate something if we are not aware of what you might be experiencing. And we do our best as leaders to try and identify that, but it's really important. Second is to be very mindful, almost apply that same thing to those around you. How is he doing? How is she doing? Easier for parents, I think, and maybe siblings to inherently do that. Probably easier for siblings to avoid doing anything about it. But really helpful for everyone to start kind of carrying that responsibility for one another. And then the third one, and this is rarely an issue, but it is important, is that we're invited guests into a community, so that you all, when you get out there, you represent Choice Humanitarian and a lot of trust that the team, the native and country team is built. And wow, here come, gringos from the United States and who knows what theories or stereotypes or jokes or fears or concerns people may have. It's really our chance to put our best foot forward. And, and you represent your families, your faiths, all sorts of things. And so being very thoughtful about our impact and our engagement in a community. If we do that, the experience will unfold and people will take advantage of that. And I rarely expect people to do anything other than that, just by the nature of folks who come, right? I think you've inherently accepted that. So we already talked about this, no individual gift giving at any level. That includes bubble gum, and includes a candy bar to individual community members. And that's because, one, that is not their expectation. Choice works really hard for communities to own their process out of development, and that is not about handouts, and it never has been from them. And so the last thing we want to do is open up some expectation that doesn't exist, right? And two, we never have enough. No matter how many times you count the kids and how many Smarties you have, like, it can be one kid that shows up out of somewhere when we're all out, and that creates more problems certainly than it solves. But we can bring a lot of resources and give them to the community in the right way at the end. The second one is Choice, first and foremost, is an international development nonprofit organization with no political or religious affiliation. And that is important to remember. It's important to remember during election years. It's important to remember during, the fact that we're based in Utah, right? And I don't think I need to go into great detail about the need to make sure that everyone in the group feels comfortable to be who they are, but that we focus conversations and common bonds, not on the obvious things of, one's religion or maybe but on the things that are a little bit more distinct, a little bit more personal about the experience, what really unites people. And so that means within the group, keeping those topics out of group conversation is very helpful, and for sure between the group and the community. And then much like gifting, promises is in there as well. And those can even, those can range from, share these photos with me on Facebook 10 days from now. Something might seem simple, like, oh, sure, add me on Facebook. It's very important that if we cannot guarantee we fulfill that promise while we're in the community as an individual, so it might say, hey, I can come visit your farm. I can make that happen. But, I can't make sure these photos get back to you, or that, I can help someone look at studying high school or a scholarship. There are the right ways to fulfill your desires around promises or programs, and talk to Choice team about how to explore that. Any questions on these rules?
Are there things you buy in the community?
Great question. So no real larger store marketing like that. We will and typically do plan or encourage the community, if they have stuff, to put together like a small pop-up market. A lot of them do make handicrafts or have them, and that will likely be a part of this. And so having money, one thing I guess we haven't talked about, when you arrive, some of you will already be, the Hamilton group will already be in country for a few days. So you'll likely have some money, you'll sort it out in ATM. For those who don't, you can do that right at the airport, getting out some cash from the ATM, or exchanging a little bit of cash in, Dallas or Miami or Houston, wherever you're flying from, right before. But having a little bit of cash in the community will be great. You won't need that cash other than that. So, and the markets are great when and if they do happen. We had I'll end with this story. We had a market in Peru barely, and at the beginning, they didn't bring a lot out because they were very uncertain about what we might want. And a woman brought out a horse poncho that to them is a horse poncho, and it's gorgeous, and they weave them themselves. She brought it out and was like, man, like rolled it out, and I had to auction it off to participants to get, and within 5 minutes, every horse poncho in the community, and I can just picture the conversation of them going, we were totally wrong. They want the horse ponchos, not the bags. Everyone, get your horse ponchos. So really neat stuff can sometimes, but it varies. We don't always know. So I put this up. Gabriella's online too. This is now for just questions around packing or any other questions you might have to maybe jog some memory. You have all this in the Guatemala packing appendix. I have some stuff over here that are like the couple core things that I bring for if anyone's interested to see what it is. Nothing fancy. But this is pretty good. One thing I would actually change on this is where it says not jeans, bring a pair of jeans. It's really wet there. It gets moist often, but jeans are just really good to work in. It's fine if they get a little wet. It takes a lot longer to dry, but I still bring a pair of like stronger working jeans. But clothes that can dry a little bit, we should anticipate rain at some point most days. The couple things, my approach to dressing on an expedition is following. I essentially wear one outfit working every day. It's the same outfit. And that means like I'm putting it on wet usually in the morning at like 9, but then at like 5 o'clock I change into a comfortable something around camp, and that just means I can bring a lot less. And so something like that, having like 1 or 2 working clothes and a couple comfort items, and doing the same thing with shoes. You'll want a good waterproof working boot. There are some rubber types of boots. We recommend that everyone bring one that works well for you to get wet in and work in, then bring like a tennis shoe as a backup to use around camp, to play sports in, to also work in if your boot's just too wet or uncomfortable. And then sandals are really good as well. So we have backup rubber boots in country, but not for every size. And those are really good for a backup, not to bank on that. Gabriella, anything you want to add packing wise? I mean, that's kind of my quick and dirty.
Right. And I want to mention that Jordan,
hold on.
Rare
Restart.
Breed, that's why he says,
Questions that
excuse me?
Gabriella, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. That was user error on my part.
Sorry. So Jordan is a rare breed. He'll wear the same outfit like for 5 days, which is fine.
I'm normal.
But know your limitations. Know your limitations, because one, we want you to be comfortable. And if that means that you may, know what you think you might need as well. Not too much, not too little, because sometimes you may be the type that cannot wear like a wet, muddy shirt, and there's no way to wash. I mean, maybe rinse with water, but that's it. But so it's just that small caveat. It's that for me, I already know, I've been there so many times, so I'm used to it now, just like Jordan, but maybe not so much for someone else. The swimsuit, I do strongly. Did you mention that? The swimsuit I do for women, really encourage it, because sometimes those doors open because and when you want to come out and with your towel wrapped around, I mean, we always have like sometimes people running around there. So for me, it's worked real well to bring a swimming suit. Let's see, the pairs of socks, those are really important, especially because they get wet and you want to be comfortable. I think the one thing that I do want to tell you, the pajamas, you can sleep on those the same day. I do all the time. Do bring a mosquito net. If you can get that one, it's just, we don't have a lot of mosquitoes but if there's some, I mean, most people that have brought it find that, yeah, they always would want to have it.
Yeah. So
Pain reliever. Go ahead.
one thing I'll just
I'm trying
add
to
on.
go down the list.
One thing I'll just add on the mosquito net here is, depending on the area, like mosquitoes just aren't a strong issue. There's not a strong concern around Zika, certainly not around malaria nor yellow fever. We can, and so if you want to bring one, we can, and we can work to set them up. Depending on the space in the rooms and things like that, the group might collectively find that that's just not as necessary as I thought it might be. They're $14 at like recreational outlet. So you can't go wrong. You can order them, I think, online for about the same price. So it's
Yeah, they're $7 at Walmart.
It is not, I don't want anyone though to think I will get malaria if I don't show up with my net. It's not that severe, but it can be nice.
The pain reliever, I do strongly recommend it because, you know, you're not used to the type of hard labor. And so a lot of people that bring it, take it if you're used to taking it, of course, and it just helps.
Yeah, and then Karen, Karen had a question real quick.
It's related to the mosquitoes. Do you definitely recommend that we treat our work clothing with permethrin?
Yeah, that's great. Yes.
Yeah.
Bug spray, permethrin, all of that preventative stuff, and your sleeping bag, you can even do that. And so that's, yes, very recommended.
I think it's safe to say that everything in the necessary items, that you need to bring all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need all of that. And the mosquito repellent, we don't just do our clothes, but we do, whenever we go out to build a stove, we always spray. So usually one bottle, but not one bottle for a whole family, maybe one per, not the huge size, but a good size.
And one thing
also,
yeah, go ahead. Well, you had mentioned medicine. I just want to round out what we will and will not have for the group. So we have a partnership with EMT Utah where our expedition leaders will have a pretty comprehensive medical emergency kit that includes things like AED, more larger first aid issues, allergy issues, etc. It's not confirmed yet whether or not this expedition will have an EMT volunteer. Some of our expeditions do, some of them don't. In that instance, it's essentially a first responder paramedic, although all of our leaders have gone through a fairly comprehensive first aid, AED, CPR training. But it means as leaders, the leaders will have some backup stuff. However, this list really is, it's your responsibility to bring the things that you might need. Our leaders can help you identify when you might need that, when it might be appropriate to step it up from something minor to something more major. But that's why we strongly suggest that everyone visit a travel clinic or your doctor if you haven't already, because there's a few things that they can prescribe you for this trip that are very beneficial to have. That includes a general quick-acting antibiotic that can either be is known as a Z-Pack. There's another one that's Cipro. Cipro is a little bit more oriented for intestinal problems, can be very effective if you're having traveler's diarrhea and Pepto isn't working, Imodium's not working. The next step is really Cipro. That's a prescription. Our leaders may come with a small amount for them in some emergency scenario, but it's really participants' responsibility to have a supply, a dose on hand for them. And you really get that prescription by visiting a travel clinic. They'll write that out. So any questions around that? Other things like NyQuil are really good. Dayquil are really good. If you get achy, fevery, things like that. Earplugs for sleeping. Yep. Some people say that's in the necessary item. That depends on the group. But so a good first aid kit with kind of, how you travel and camp better, but our leaders can help you understand what you might want to take, when you might want to take it, make some of those decisions for sure. Gabriella?
Headlamps, please. Yeah, with headlamps, please make sure that it works, and if you have an extra battery, because that you will need to go. It gets dark really fast, and even if you need to look for something where you're sleeping, we won't have, that would be your only source of light. So that's really important that you have. And those we don't have usually very many. You can borrow one. We've had people to just borrow if you forget, but it's always good to bring your own.
Yep. Any questions around packing, last minute items, things like that?
And if you're embarrassed to ask, you could always email me and just ask me personally, and I will give you my best answer and my best suggestions, or even Jordan if you just don't want to ask right now.
For sure. Karen.
I have a question. I guess I'm assuming that we will be doing sponge baths in the bathroom and the sink. Is that right?
There will be solar showers available and set up in a little space. So that doesn't mean it's going to be hot, but it means it won't be freezing. And depending on individuals, Guatemala, you tend to get a little bit sweatier. It's hot in the day. Sometimes you get caught in the rain. So yeah, that's like where the swimsuit and sandals are really helpful to kind of have a good little rinse off kit. And the team will make sure that there's a space that's private and comfortable for rinsing off. That would be kind of one step above a sponge bucket shower. But just
one of the things that I'm so glad you mentioned that it's really helpful is that to always bring like a little bag that has a hook. There's nowhere to put your soap and your whatever it is you're showering with. I usually put it in my head and then just kind of use the soap in my head. But if you want to bring something into there's nowhere to put anything, including in a hook, like
this. You can just hang anywhere, everything, your towel. I usually bring those small, kind of quick dry microfiber towels. So you've got like everything you'd need in there. Just makes it so easy. Although
like a big clamp, you know those ones that hold the paper clips? You know those paper clip things? I always take one of those, and that's where I clip my towel with.
That's great.
And for the women, I also take like my terry cloth that I use for when I go to the swimming pool, and I just throw that and zip it or just throw it in, and that saves your hand from carrying one thing in your hair or things like that. That's really helpful.
And the last little suggestion that hasn't come up, usually does, is just around like types of bags and what do you need and not need. You don't need a backpacking backpack because you won't have to carry your stuff very far. And in honestly some instances, those can be the least convenient because you're going to be living out of it for essentially a week, and they stack vertically. So in order to get, a working glove that's at the bottom, you have to extract kind of everything. I find that just duffels are like squared wheeled luggage, but duffels are better because there's a lot less damage. You can haul them easy. You don't have to worry about breaking wheels off and things like that. And I like this one a lot because they make it with some backpack straps. So it is easy to haul around. It's waterproof or heavily water resistant. But they make a lot of types of these, and they're great. And if you're using duffels and travel packing pouches inside, it's so easy to get in and out of everything, and we'll all be in each other's business and space. So the more you can kind of control your mess, the little easier it is. So but don't feel like you need to buy luggage for this.
But what I will mention is that I will highly encourage everyone not to bring a huge backpack, but just one of those lightweight backpacks. We always take 1 or 2 bottled waters.
Yes.
Because a lot of the times we can't carry water. Everyone has to carry their own water where you're working. And sometimes we'll be able to.
Great reminder. We will actually have some for you in country with some resources. Let me get one out so you can see what it is, because it is exactly what she's talking about. Hold on.
But you do need a water bottle to refill that.
So in country, we'll have one of these for everybody with your shirts and some resources and a little bit more info. This is great. So you can just pack this thing up, but it works for like everything you would need. So if you're traveling, you could probably bring one big piece of luggage and like even a bigger backpack that, you know, for your plane that's kind of loaded up with whatever you might want. And for day use, like grab and go use, this is great. So we'll have these for everyone. So if you're thinking, "God, what would I want to grab, you know, for this?" Don't worry about having a secondary small day pack. We'll have this for you guys. Yes, it is for sure. This is we'll have a couple things that have been sponsored by some partner organizations that are great, and yeah, everyone can keep them. So great point.
Water, all good to drink.
What, Dad?
Yeah, we will have great water there. We will be packing in, we won't drink out of faucet water that's there, but we'll have big gallon water that our teams will have. Everything's used for cooking and things like that, and drinking. Plenty of water, but all bottled and purified. So bring a bottle, like a Nalgene bottle or something like that, one or two, because that is just, you can't ever have enough water. So, well, any other questions? Otherwise, any other questions, and I'll maybe wrap up with just a few next steps. So if there are no other questions, then couple things that I would recommend. I don't know if everyone is in the Facebook group. We've sent out some invites. If you aren't, I highly recommend now, especially the kids who are, you know, on the loops of some of the emails, I'm not sure all of them, join the TRIP Facebook group. If you, let me know if you need an invite or something for that. At this stage, we will start to put a lot more readily accessible info as you prepare into the Facebook group. So it's a great place to start to digest that. I also recommend questions that come in. If you have a question that isn't too personal, that you think others might benefit from, ask that in the Facebook group. That way, when we respond, we can make sure, hey, you know what? Everyone can get the answer to that. Great place to do that as well. And otherwise, you can always call, always email. One of the next steps that you will anticipate is Peter and Gabriella will probably be setting up some times or calling you guys, I would say within 10 days, maybe about 10 days before the trip goes, to just check in with you individually about packing, any other questions once you've really got into it. So you can also call them at any point, but they'll be calling, so you can kind of anticipate that. Great chances to get to know them a little bit better as well. And then a few more resources, travel resources, pre-departure resources that I'll send out a few days before you leave. As we get everyone's flight itineraries in, we'll kind of sync all that up. But otherwise, if there are paperwork, payments, any of those administrative items, feel free to catch me after here. But we're in the zone now where we'll want to take care of those if you haven't already. And happy to answer anyone's questions on how to do that. So with that, we'll close it on out, and hopefully there's not another foot of snow in the time that we've been talking.
Jordan, I just really want to stress the fact that you can call me anytime. If you're at the store and you're like, I don't know which one to pick, you can call me. I've been there where I don't know which of the two sleeping bags works best, and if you want my advice, I'd be happy to take your phone call. And you don't have to wait till I call you in the next 10 days if you want to plan ahead. Just please call me. No small question is not important. If it's important to you, it's important to me. And so please feel free to call me anytime.
Excellent. Yeah, she's so very gracious with her time. Peter's the same. So with that, I think we'll kind of wrap this up. Happy to chat with those who are still here. Any other question? Did I hear someone?
Yeah, where do we get her phone number? Is it on the front of the?
Good question.
That is a great question. Where would you get that? Who should send that to you?
I should send
In
it to you, but
response?
if you,
In
for
response
those
to
of you
this
who are
email,
there, I can go
or-
and give them to you. I'll post it on Facebook, but if you want to write it down right now, I can give it to you right now.
yeah,
So it's area code.
Gabrielle, if you want as well, if you could do Facebook and also
Okay.
reply to the email, just this very email related to this orientation with
Okay.
your phone number, that would be a great spot to do it as well.
Okay, great.
Okay.
But you can share it right now. Not like you can't.
Oh, okay. It's 801-558-1205.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.